Pondicherry is a peaceful seaside town nestled into the eastern coast of India, about 2.5 hours drive south of Chennai. Puducherry, as Pondicherry was originally named, was once a sleepy fishing village. The French thought it was a perfect place to set up camp to trade for fabric and spices, and built the original Fort Pondicherry in 1674. The British under Clive took the town in battle and razed it to the ground. The French rebuilt the town, but of the original walled fort, few traces remain. The architectural heritage of modern Pondicherry therefore begins with the reconstruction of the town by Lord de Lauriston, with the help of the French architect Bossuet in 1765. The French constructed the town in two parts, the French or Ville Blanche and the Tamil or Ville Noire, separated by a storm-water canal. The streets within the main boulevard were all laid in a perfect grid, which remains one of the hallmarks of the town today. The old buildings in both quarters are replete with history. Several great Indian patriots and poets lived here. This was the house of Subramaniam Bharatiyar, the renowned Tamil poet. Monsieur Sugusu Kupaswamy, a former lecturer at the Calvé College, translated one of his verses from Tamil into French. Luminaries such as Sri Aurobindo Ghosh liked Pondicherry because here they were free from the yoke of British law. The same clock face that smiled down on these illustrious sons of India in those ages past still looks down at the centre of the market, and the flower sellers who prepare and sell their fragrant garlands may seem much like their sisters from a bygone age, but the cityscape of Pondicherry has been changing. Like a species facing extinction, many beautiful buildings linger neglected, and every now and then one falls victim to the stonemason's sledgehammer. With each old building that is torn down, the town loses a bit more of its unique and priceless living architectural heritage. The woodwork and ornaments that are extracted from these demolished buildings resurface as items for sale in an antique shop. A movement is now underway to restore, renovate and preserve Pondicherry's unique old buildings, such as that belonging to Calvé Sadashivam Chettiar. In his grandfather's day, the building housed a grand dance hall where visiting French officials and dignitaries would be felicitated with recitals of classical Indian dance and music.
This is the dancing hall. Ladies used to sit there, and gents used to sit here. Formerly it was covered with wood. Since I have turned it into a house, removed all the woods. And also I whitewashed all these things, but I didn't change the ceiling. When the governors, French governors, take oath here in Pondicherry, they were given a circle here.
His house facade was renovated under the Asia Urbs Programme. Close by, in this Tamil area of town, is the house of Lakshmi Gandam. Her father built the original house 75 years ago. She inherited it, and when she married 45 years ago, she and her husband extended the building. The construction used traditional techniques of clay mortar and lime plaster.
அப்புறம் மட்டி சுண்ணாம்பு பூசி அப்புறம் அந்த அரிசி உள்ளனாக்க அந்த கிழிஞ்சதை கும்பலாக கொட்டி தண்ணியை ஊற்றி கும்பலை கிளறினாங்கனாக்கா மாவு மாதிரி ஆகிடும், அரிசி மாவு மாதிரி ஆகிடும். அந்த முறத்தை வச்சுன்னு கொழிப்பாங்க. கொழித்து அதை கலவை போட்டு அம்மியில் வச்சு அரைப்பாங்க. அரைச்சி இந்த மட்டி சுண்ணாம்பை பூசிட்டு இந்த அரிசி வெள்ளையை வாரி ஊற்றுவாங்க. தேய்க்கிற கட்டையால் பிடிச்சி தேய்ப்பாங்க. நல்லா தேய்ச்சிட்டு கூழாங்கல் இருக்கும், அந்த கூழாங்கல் அதை வச்சு நல்லா இழைப்பாங்க. வேற வரைக்கும் நாங்கள் ஒன்றும் செஞ்சது கிடையாது. இதே மாதிரி இருக்கணுன்றது தான், செஞ்சது அப்படியே இருக்கணுன்றது தான்.
Many old buildings had Tamil architecture on the ground floor with a large central courtyard and wooden pillars, with the first floor finished in the French style. We call this Franco-Tamil architecture. This cross-cultural fertilization is what makes the architecture of Pondicherry so unique. The building that houses the Société Progressiste is a large traditional Franco-Tamil building that has been wonderfully adapted to house the school.
Ce bâtiment mérite ses travaux parce qu'il est tellement ancien. Il date de plus de 200 ans. Que les anciennes maisons à Pondicherry portent toujours une pareille cour entourée de colonnes superbes que nous appelons tête de rangoon. Ça tient ferme pendant 200 ans. Il n'y a aucune perte, aucune altération. Et ce bâtiment c'est un vestige du style français, surtout à l'étage. En bas, vous pouvez observer que c'est le style indien, avec cette cour, grande cour, qui permet l'aération et de même la pénétration de la lumière du soleil.
Viksham Dehi Kripaavalambanakari Matana Purneshwari.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha.
We are entering the Muslim quarter. The streets and houses are arranged in accordance with the placement of the mosque and therefore deviate slightly from the normal grid pattern that typifies the rest of the town. The streets welcome one with a wealth of color and intricate decoration. Tamil Muslims had their own style of ornamentation and construction, and while the same basic form was used for the structure, the decorative features are as distinct as they are beautiful.
This is what we call a fabulous traditional Muslim house. The composition is perfect. That is, wood is there throughout the facade. Be it in the wooden pillars of the Thinai, the post of the Tarvaram, or the continuous intricately carved eaves board and handrails. The carving and ornamentation is really intricate. A notable feature is the wooden balcony resting on the wooden rafters just cascading out of the building. The windows have semicircular bay tops with ornamental cornice bands running around them. The top part of the window features colorful stained glass panels in a beautiful wooden framework. In this house, the usual wooden pillars are replaced with solid masonry ones. The masonry thinai is replaced by a wooden bench for people to rest, relax and chat. The masonry pillars feature a highly decorative Corinthian capital. Another interesting feature here is the cast iron handrail. Whether it's a Hindu, Muslim or Christian house in the Tamil Quarters, the architectural composition remains very similar in that we have a continuous facade accentuated by horizontal cornices, balconies and tarvarams. In this Muslim house, a very decorative parapet baluster substitutes for the common simple flat parapet. The continuously sloping tarvarams provide respite from the harsh tropical sun and monsoon rains.
Shadish is a member of INTACH, an NGO that has been working since 1985 to preserve and restore the historic buildings of Pondicherry. More recently, INTACH has been active with various government agencies in Pondicherry under the Asia Urbs Programme. This program is a European initiative to work with Asian cities to improve the urban environment. A typical project lasts 2 years and the cost is shared between the participating cities and the European Commission.
Really, the main USP of Pondicherry is Indo-French heritage. And when you come inside the city, you have a definite, different feeling. And that's induced by the architecture, by the way the streets are laid, by the way the buildings relate to each other. In many ways, the spiritual heritage of Pondicherry is influenced by its architectural heritage. Urbino ashram, which is really the spiritual, center, well, that's completely housed in a colonial architectural, aesthetic. They say that buildings influence the way we behave. We make the buildings and then the buildings influence us.
So when I came to Pondi in 1988, of course I came to know about this building, and immediately I fell in love with this building. I knew that I could make out of this building something wonderful. In the very beginning, it was in a very bad shape. The original building is very much French, 18th century, but the interiors are very much ethnic in the sense. Why ethnic? Because we do have a rich heritage, interior tradition, which makes a nice fusion of these two rich cultures.
Hotel de l'Orient is an example of a successful renovation. A team of architects at INTACH restored a building that would otherwise have been torn down as a financial liability. They renovated it and gave it a new lease of life as a heritage hotel. The architects had to remove several walls that had been added over the years. Then, when the building had been peeled back to the basic structure, it was repaired and restored to its former glory. When the building was built in 1775 as one of the earlier buildings in the reconstruction by Lord de Lauriston, it was just a single floor with a terrace on top, all done in a relatively simple style. Then, years later, when presumably the owner had become prosperous, the building was extended upward with a more elaborate first floor. The restoration of this hotel has been the precursor to several such heritage hotels.
The blend of the European and Indian traditional architecture that is so unique to this town, that we have this French part and the Tamil part, and which have very distinctive architectural styles. One is Indian and the other one is European architecture adapted to colonial climate.
Kanu Mistry is one of the foremost builders in Pondicherry. He added a first floor to his ground floor home in such a way that the facade harmonizes with the traditional French streetscape. The house is furnished in a mix of Indian and colonial furniture and decor.
Our house, a family house here, where we are sitting right now, where the old substance was also excellent. And we had to make new extensions, like this veranda is a new extension completely. And we had to bring in traditional elements like the old columns and also floor. This floor actually we found from the Calvi College and then fixed them back again in a certain pattern. and try to recreate as much as possible the old type living. We have a very natural light that comes in, and we can control that natural light by way of the louvers which we have used on the doors and windows. We have found different varieties of preserving of the old architecture. Now, one example is the Kothari house, which was in a very healthy structural and aesthetic state. We basically had to add services to the building, new bathrooms, new kitchen, electricity, water, sewage, things like that. And repeat the old features but carefully again redoing them as faithfully as possible. So that's a very good example of preserving the old architecture and renovating.
The French Institute is a venerable compiler and disseminator of information. The Institute conducts research in endology, ecology, sociology and earth sciences, and has done extensive earth mapping in the Western Ghats, the mountains along the western seacoast of India. From the entrance off the street, one enters a courtyard with the building square opposite. As one enters through the doorway, one moves through a sequence of large, shady halls filled with bookcases and interspersed with courtyards. The decor undergoes a change halfway through the building and progresses to being totally modern when it culminates in the library at the end. The Hotel du Play is comprised of a new and much larger building added onto an existing colonial structure. The difference between the two is all but invisible. The new building is built in exactly the same style as the old, though the entire structure now incorporates Tamil and colonial decor and furnishing. These renovated heritage hotels offer tourists a taste of a bygone era.
Pondicherry is known for its history, its USP, and especially from the tourists' point of view. A lot of people would like to come here thinking that they are going to see a little France here, which is steeped in history. But then because of the commercial pressure on the property here, the heritage properties do get eroded, and government is very keen that the heritage is preserved. We have announced financial incentives for buildings, the owners who would like to maintain and preserve their buildings which are having heritage value. We would give them financial assistance for roof repairs, for facade improvement, for removal of features which are not in tune with the heritage character of the building. Essentially, this plan has been to cut out on the red tape and to improve upon where the Asia Urbs Programme is leading us.
The government is acutely aware that the old colonial ambience is a significant incentive for tourism and is ready to support the preservation process. Many notable buildings in the Tamil town have already been renovated under the Asia Urbs Programme, like this school, Ecole Sushilabai.
நான் பில்டிங் கான்ட்ராக்டர். இந்த பழைய பில்டிங் சேல்ஸில் எனக்கு ரொம்பவே ஆர்வம். மற்றபடி இந்த பில்டிங்கோட இது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா புது பில்டிங்கோட ஸ்ட்ரென்த் அதிகம். என்னுடைய இது நல்லாயிருக்கும். இன்னும் ஒரு 70 இயர்ஸ் கண்டிப்பாக இது நல்லாயிருக்கும்.
Sri Aurobindo Ghosh lived in this house for about 6 months, and hence it's commonly known as Sri Aurobindo's house. It actually belonged to a great nobleman called Kalve Shankara Chetty, and he was again related to Kalve Subraya Chettiar. The Tarvaram of this house integrates seamlessly with those of its neighbors to create this wonderful corridor that lines the entire length of the street. This street is named after Kalve Subraya Chettiar, the owner of this house. Notice a very unusual double-tiled sloping roof of the Tarvaram and the flat Madras terrace roof of the Thinnai. From an urban perspective, the Thinnai and Tarvaram form the transition space between the public street and the private interiors. And if you see the next house, this is an example of Franco-Tamil architecture. It's an interesting composition in the sense that we have a Greco-Roman pediment on top of the building. The original house has been divided in the center to form two independent and very different facades. This has been due to property division, which is often the reason for the loss of many heritage buildings in Pondi.
The proliferation of modern buildings built with no aesthetic reference to the original streetscape has resulted not only in the loss of individual historic buildings, but is slowly destroying the old character of the town, the very thing that makes Pondicherry so special.
வணக்கம் பாண்டிச்சேரிக்கு வந்து படம் எடுக்கிறதுல ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம் எங்களுக்கு.
Of all the many buildings in Pondi, why did you choose this building in particular for your film shooting?
We decided to come to Pondicherry because it is an old city. It looks good and the locations are beautiful. As soon as I saw the building, I liked it, so we have used it to film a song. The people of Tamil Nadu have preserved their old culture. They enjoy seeing an old picture, an antique. In this house, everything is very old. The film will thus have a nice character and beautiful location.
Do you consider Pondicherry to be a heritage town?
Oh yes, definitely. Pondicherry is a very old heritage town.
The construction of new buildings with facades in harmony with the older streetscape shows that the character of the street can still be maintained, even though it may not be possible to save an older building. If all new construction could be directed to respect the existing character of the streets where it is situated and be designed in harmony with the older buildings around it, future generations may also enjoy this peaceful and beautiful historic town. Steeped in the deeds of centuries past, this unique architecture begins in the 18th century and includes classical French architecture, classical Tamil architecture and buildings which are a synthesis of both. Each area of the town has its own character and each contributes its flavor to the town. So wherever you go in Pondicherry, you can be sure that just around the corner is something interesting.
Allons enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé. Contre nous de la tyrannie, l'étendard sanglant élevé. Marchons, marchons, 1515, abreuvons nos sillons.